Bellick. Can you tell us about this photo, please, Tola?
Well, this photo, my brother travels around the world and he goes to the family and asks if they got photos. So he got this photo from the family in Israel. And this is my grandfather, Joseph Beibuch. That's my uncle Herman. And my brother made that picture and he sent it to me.
So could you tell us from left to right who the people are?
Well, in the right side is my grandfather, and in the left side is my uncle. It's written in the back.
And in
That's
the middle?
In the middle is my grandfather.
Okay, so in the middle is your grandfather,
Yeah.
and on the right is?
It's my. That's This is in the left.
No.
In the right, that's my uncle. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how come you have these photos? Oh, your brother got them.
Yeah, my brother made copies and he sent it to me.
When do
So
you think it was taken?
That picture was taken before the war, and the family had it. And I'm not sure if they got the pictures in Israel or in Argentina. And that's where they made copies, and he sent it.
Okay, thank you.
Well, this is my parents. My mother's name is Sarah, Sandra, and my father's name is Yitzchak, or Isaac. And those pictures, my brother also find it in some relation's place. And he made copies and he sent it to us.
Would you have any idea when they were taken?
That was taken before the war. That's my mother, and I don't know if she was married then or she was single. That's the same pictures, find from before the war, and of course my brother made it, and he sent it over. She was a beautiful woman. You can see in the photo. It's always left. That's my uncle Herman. He's a brother of my mother's, and he was living in Warsaw, and he wouldn't let him take like we did go. He fight for his life, and he got killed over there with the German. He got burnt with them together. He wouldn't let him go like an animal.
Is this in the Warsaw Ghetto
in
Uprising?
Yes, that's in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising. And this is his son. Yeah.
And what happened to the son?
They all got killed. They all was killed in the uprising. They all. Do you know when? Do you? That's my cousin Helen from Plotzk. And when in the war, the German came in. She was very beautiful. They used the up. And what you mean using up, it's they had sex with her and then they killed her. She was only 19 years old. That's my cousin Edja. She is a sister to Helen, and she survived. And my brother Felix found her. That's why we went to Landshut. And we stayed in Landshut, and that's where I got married. And she was a wonderful, beautiful girl. We were like sisters. And she died 30 years ago of leukemia. Well, this one, it's a family crest, which my cousin in England, Alfred Marx, he was born in Tuschinski. He's a very famous film actor. And he had it in his house, and my brother David made some copies of it as well. And his name is Tuschinski, but I couldn't spell his name, so it's Alfred Mark. And this is left from the family crest.
Do you know how old the crest is?
Oh, it's a very old crest. I couldn't tell you. My brother David probably knows. I don't know.
Thank you.
Yeah. That was my husband Sam before I met him. Was in Majdanek, Dachau, in all the worst camps. He used to tell me he was lucky to be alive. He got some friends, but they still live here in Melbourne. He said there was very bad camps, very bad ones.
And do you know when this was taken?
This was taken after the war, but he put a little bit white on, but he looked worse than that. So I wanted to put this picture so my grandchildren will remember how his grandfather looked like. This is my husband Sam when we met, and he took me in the bike, and we had a ride in the bike, and I fell over in the bike and I torn my stockings, and I said to him, well, I haven't got any more stockings. So he said, don't worry, I'll bring you some plenty others. And he brought me some other stockings.
Where was this taken?
This was taken in Bergen-Belsen. Did you got it, Bergen-Belsen? Yeah. This is my wedding photo. And as you can see, that dress was borrowed from a German woman, and she made it to fit me. And she said to me, why are you so sad today? And I said, you would be sad too if you wouldn't have your parents to see you get married. And in that picture is my brother, my two brothers, my cousin, my sister-in-law, and some friends.
Could you tell us from left to right the names of those people?
Yeah,
And where,
Topka is in the left. That's my cousin in America.
And his
She's
name?
not alive
And her
again.
name?
Topka,
Topka.
yeah. And can't see, my eyes are getting a bit swollen. And to the right is my sister-in-law, Fela, which is my cousin. Her father and my father were brothers. And my brother's in the hat was behind me. In my
Which
other,
brother is that?
That's brother Romek, but he died 7 years ago. And my other brother in the back and some friends. I was lucky that I still have 3 brothers, and I had 2 cousins in my wedding. Others didn't have anything. My husband didn't have anybody, just friends from town. Well, I could say, as you can see, this is my wedding picture, and it's Felix's head behind it. You can see Felix's head behind it, and I was crying, sitting and crying. And he went in the back and he said, Tola, don't cry, we're all behind you. So Felix said, we're all behind you. So I did give a smile in the camera. Thank you. This is actually my cousin Adela Rosenblum, and she was a teacher, and she was sent out from Jenin as delegate to America with other teachers, and the war broke out, and she couldn't come back, and she left behind a husband and 2 children. Her husband was Herschel, and her children was Isha and Lucia. Isha was 1 year older, and Lucia was 1 year younger than me. Every time she came to lodge, she always took me to her place to be like her child for holiday. She was this much warm person, and her husband wanted to come to America with the 2 children, and the German caught him and killed him, and she remarried in America. That's her second husband, and he was a very lovely man. and he wanted us to make a permit to come to America. And she wanted to be like a mother to me. But she was a very warm person. And I said, I can't come to America. I have to go to be with my brothers together. So I came to Australia. Then she went for a cruise to Israel, and she lived in Israel. Then Harvey in Loretta came, and he settled over there, and she was so happy to see them and to see the grandchildren. She loved them, adored them. Unfortunately, she's gone too.
What is her husband's name in this picture?
I've forgotten. I should have had a look in the back of it. This is her second husband, she remembered.
Thank you.
My husband, Sam, we came into Judith and Peter's house, and there was a rabbi there, and they were talking. And they were talking about the religion, and Sam said, I haven't put those tefillin on since I had my bar mitzvah. So Peter went quick to his bedroom and brought out those tefillin, and my husband put it on like it would be yesterday, and he didn't miss anything out of it. We put everything in. That was his picture. So I wanted to put it in the video so the kids will remember that he knew how to do that too. He was a self-educated person. He knew everything what to do, but he never talked about anything. Politics, everything. That's my older daughter Sandra, and my son-in-law Barry, and his son Ashley, and the daughter Annalisa.
When was this taken?
That was taken recently. I can see you here. Well, this is my younger daughter Judith, and her husband Peter, and Jessica is the older daughter, and the second daughter is Becky, and the little boy is Joshie.
I can't tell which is the older daughter.
My
Can you
gorgeous,
tell me
yeah.
which is the older daughter?
The older daughter is in the right, and the younger daughter is in the left.
Okay.
It's only 2 years between them.
And is this photo recent?
Yeah, this picture is 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, something like that. It was Becky's bar mitzvah.
Thank you.
This is my son Harvey and his wife Loretta, and that's the 3 children, the beautiful kids. Jonathan, I put his head in his arm. That's the older one. Daniel is in the middle, and Ayelet is what my daughter Loretta holds. She was 1.5 years old here, and we're going to talk to him soon. So we show this picture again.
Tola, would you like to introduce your family?
Yes, that's my older daughter Sandra, and that's her husband Barry, and that's Ashley, and that's Annalisa, and that's my second daughter Judith.
Huh?
And that's her husband Peter, and that's the little boy Joshie. And she got 2 other girls, and then our in camp.
Sandra, I'd like to ask you, when did you and Judith learn about some of the experiences your mother had been through? What age were you when you first knew?
I would say I was probably about 4 or 5, and I was looking through some photos in a drawer, and I can't remember where it was, and I came across 2 photos I can still picture now. One was, they were both from the concentration camps. One was the ovens, and the tray was open, and a skeleton on that, and there was another picture of a group of inmates, I guess, in their striped outfit. I've still got those two pictures in my mind, and I think it has had an amazing impact on me. I won't buy striped pyjamas. I have a dislike for things Germany. Where I'm teaching currently at King David School, and when we have the Yom HaShoah, we have the memorial service there. After that, I'm absolutely a write-off. The rest of the staff know that I've got to be taken out and have a cup of tea because I'm absolutely distraught at something like that. I can't watch any films or movies that are about concentration camps or related to without having nightmares and having the thoughts constantly with me. I remember Mum taking me to the German consulate because I had to be a witness for her to say that she was suffering from nightmares. I remember that, and I remember her waking in the night and screaming.
How old were you then?
Must have been 4 or 5, because I know Judy wasn't born then. And I remember I had to go with her to prove to them that she was having nightmares and that she was having some sort of residual effect from all of this. So I guess those 3 things are the things that have affected me deeply and have always remained with me.
And Judith, what did you learn and when?
I think Sandra's right. I don't have any recollection of Mum screaming at night. I'm 6 years younger. I do remember Sandra showing me the Rusang photos, and I would have been myself 6 or 7, because I remember we'd moved from Coburg to a flat in St Kilda, and I were in the drawers in the bedroom. And I remember seeing that. I don't remember screaming. I remember very little being said about any of it. I remember hearing nothing from my father at all. He kept it very much to himself. And that's pretty much what happened in the house, as though by not talking about it, it would go away, it would evaporate, and the nastiness and the terror of it would somehow vaporise and leave us alone. And I suspect that that's how my parents coped with it. It was really only just now from my mother that we hear very much about what happened, and I'm sure that what's going to be in this tape will be an opening of my eyes, particularly in respect to my mother, and something that is, I think, a marvellous thing for her to do, and for which we will all be very grateful immediately and later as well. But I think that's how my parents probably both coped with it, and probably coped with it differently at different stages in their life. My sister hearing the screaming, myself having heard none of it, and probably my brother being pushed even further away from it altogether.
Tola was telling us how difficult it was not having any grandparents. Can you tell us about that, please?
I think I felt that enormously. I know I went to a local state school, and I was always coming home and saying, how come someone's grandparent picked them up, and how come, this grandma's coming, that grandma's coming. It's not fair. I don't have grandmas and grandpas. And it has affected me a lot, and I keep telling my own kids that they're so damn lucky. Have grandparents.
And for me, they just weren't grandparents because they weren't grandparents. And it was just a further stamping of that we were different to other people here. Although by the same token, because there are so many Holocaust survivors in Melbourne, I really didn't think that very many people did have grandparents, nor was there a Jew without a Polish accent, because it is such a concentrated group. I just assumed that there weren't because there weren't, and you didn't have them. That's just how it was, really.
Is there something either of you would like to say to your mother now?
I think she's been fantastic to go through this. It must be awfully traumatic to relive it all. I guess we can't comprehend it. we can't comprehend it. As I said, I have difficulty watching anything. I could not go and see the shower. I couldn't. And for her to live through it, I guess it's incomprehensible. And I think it is important that something like this is preserved for future generations. I know my own children are aware of it. How deeply they understand it or know about it, I don't know. I think maybe Ashley can shed a little light, because 2 years ago he was in Israel and he actually went to Yad Vashem with Mum and Harvey, so maybe he can just sort of give his point of view about that.
Yeah, as my mother was saying, I went to Yad Vashem. I knew bits and pieces, or Schindler's List, that sort of stuff. But as Judy was saying, that neither of my grandparents ever spoke about it, and I sort of think, don't ask them about it because it just hurts too much, and they don't want to talk about it, and then, so I never really thought about it. I thought about it, never really asked about it. And then I went with Harvey, the other child, and grandmother to Yad Vashem, because they had a special exhibition, if that's the word, of the Lot's ghetto. They recreated what life in the ghetto was, and that was the one that my grandmother was in. So we went around with her, and Harvey was filming, and I was there, and that's the first time I ever saw her. She began to say bits of stories, like she saw a photo and said, "Oh, I know that guy," or then she talked about how she was a cook, or helping serve the food, and she used to give my grandfather an extra bit of bread, and stuff like that. Things I'd never heard of before, and it was quite interesting. And as we walked around, it probably took a few hours, just bits and pieces came together. And indirectly, I suppose, she sort of told us, because like whenever you eat, it's always have more food, even if you say no, it gets piled on. I think that's because she didn't have much food when she was young. And the constant reminder that, you got to do this for your family, or family is very important. So family and food, two things that she's been deprived of, I suppose, when she was younger, is very much important in her life now. I suppose that's her way of showing us how lucky we are that we didn't have to go through anything like that.
I wanted just to say something which is a bit different to what my sister said. I would have been very surprised if my mother hadn't made this video. I think, yes, it's a hard thing to go over it now, but having been through it, I can't believe she wouldn't have the courage to do it now. And I think it needs to be looked at the other way round. And I think a very great, long-held, troubled load might just be lifted by having come through this. And I think it's really a shame that it hasn't come out earlier, because I think a lot of healing could have come about as a result of it, instead of a lot of burning being held inside. Not just for us, but I think for my parents particularly. And it is just, I think, a sorrow that my father didn't do it.
He actually did do a video for Harvey.
He was beginning, and I think to my parents' detriment, they kept this to themselves, and I think they probably harmed themselves by keeping it to themselves for so long, instead of sifting it through with us as well, and to protect us from it when they went through it, I think is unfortunately looking through the mirror backwards. I don't know, just a thought.
Annalise, you were saying before that you wanted to say something about your grandfather as well as your grandmother. Would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, I just think that this video should also be made in devotion of him. He passed away 3 years ago, and he also should be remembered as much as Nana Tola, because they were both in the war together. And I know it must have been hard on Nana to lose him after 50 years, and the whole family, it was a very devastating event, because if it wasn't for him surviving, we wouldn't all be here.
Barry, would you like to say anything?
Well, I've been very lucky, because I've been brought up in Australia, and I was insulated from all what happened over in Europe. My parents were born here, and I guess all I've learnt about it has come through TV or reading books and so forth. Tola and Sam were very reluctant to talk about it, and I've known Sandra now. I've been with Sandra for, I don't know, 20 odd years, 30 years, and very rarely was the topic brought up, and it was almost a taboo topic. I think that was mainly because of Sam. He was very reluctant to talk about it. So we didn't really live the personal experiences to a great detail, other than to see it on the TV or on the films. So I guess when you talk personally with it, it comes more to, it comes more serial. You feel a lot more when you talk own personal experience rather than, well, to me anyway, when the odd time it has come up, you really do get very emotional about it. And it's a pity, as Judy said, that Sam couldn't talk about it. It may have been better for him had he been able to talk more about it. And it's very traumatic.
Can I say something? Everyone's been saying that Tola and Sam didn't talk about it, but my mother never talked about it either. That's the first time I heard of her aversion to striped pyjamas, for example, and things like that. So it's not only up to the people who survived it, but their children to also pass it on.
Okay.
Oh, Peter.
Yeah, sure. My parents both Holocaust survivors, and I got the other side of the story. My parents did just speak about it. I suppose there's no right or wrong way, but the outcome is everybody gets scarred one way or the other. I was fortunate, though, that we did talk about it. So I suppose the effect wasn't as devastating, as badly as it was. And I just think this is a brilliant idea, and I just hope that hopefully that it does create some sort of a solace within the person, that at least their memories are put on tape, but at least for the future generations to see the ones of doubt.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, firstly, I'm very glad that Mum is documenting and telling her story, because it's something we didn't hear much about as we were growing up. But in the last few years, Mum has started to speak. Dad never really spoke about it until Loretta and I went to Poland a few years ago, which was the year before he died. And we went to the city that he had lived in and met a neighbour. And he was quite excited that we'd been there, and then started to speak and tell us. And he told us things which we can't imagine. But when you hear what happened to your family, and you don't have that family anymore, it's very important to know. The Shoah was always a shadow hanging over us that Mum and Dad didn't really speak about. And Mum was lucky that all except her little brother survived from her siblings. But I'm sure it affected us all. And it affects Mum with the way she sees a family and how she wants her children and their children to be close. And it affects her and us with obsessions about food, which are absolutely understandable, given that she didn't have food for so many years. And I'm sure that's much of the reason why I live in Israel now, why Loretta and I, who also has parents that were in the Shoah, decided that Israel is a place to live in. And although we were apart from my parents and now my mother, and a long way from each other, I know that they realise why it's important that we live here and that our children grow up here. Mum, when we went with Felix and Dana to Poland, we saw where you were born and where you lived and where you grew up in. We saw where the ghetto had been, and we saw the camps that you had been in and Dad had been in. They're unimaginable things. But the way that you and Dad survived, built a beautiful family and a good life, shows what kind of people you are. And I'm just glad now that you have been able, and I think it's partly because when you're here and you're here in Israel during Yom HaShoah, and our kids are asking you all the questions, that you realise the time has come to have it recorded for all of us. So we thank you for that, and we love you for that. I know it's very hard, but it's something we'll have forever. We love you, Mum.
Tola, can you tell us about this photo?
Well, this picture was was taken of Harvey's and Loretta's wedding. And this is about 12 or 13 years ago. He was very happy and all that. So I make some photos for all the kids and I gave it to them so they have something.
Thank you.